Hi, my name is Rakesh Singh and I welcome you on this jQuery video session. Thank you so much for joining Naresh IT Technologies video session. In today's video session, we are going to discuss about jQuery Attribute Selector, one of the most important aspect of the jQuery script library, to work on the how to select the element by using their attribute. Like suppose if you are working with any of the HTML element, example take image element, nothing but img. So what we write, angle bracket img. Along with that element we used to make number of attribute to be mentioned there, like src, title, right. So what is the src? It is a one attribute used to specify the path of image. Title, it used to define the text which will be appeared at runtime whenever user mouse pointer over to the image element. Alt, it is another attribute to specify the text to display as an alternate text if image path is not found or something problem there with image path. So in order to work with the HTML DOM element to select, to perform any such action, and that element to be selected with the specified attribute as well as attribute value, what value is available. So today video session is for that particular topic. The name is jQuery Attribute Selector, how to work. So with a jQuery we can actually find any elements based on any kind of attribute. Whatever element we have in HTML document, that can be selected with their attribute. Somebody working with the input element, type equals to text, input type equals to text. So what is the type? Type is an attribute and text is their value. So I want to select those all input element which uses a type attribute with value or text. We have input type equals to password, we have input type equals to what is it, nothing but other values like a number. So we want to select those element which uses a type attribute. Suppose we are working with the div element, that element has also an attribute title. So if you want to select all the elements type of div with the attribute title, then we can use this jQuery attribute selector. So in this video session we will discuss selecting elements that have specified some attribute as well as that have specified the attribute value. Means we are going to work with the element to select which have some attribute as well as that attribute have some value. So how we will do that? We have to use brackets. In the square bracket open, a square bracket close, we will write the attribute. So whichever element is available on HTML document with this specified attribute, that elements will be selected. So use bracket, square bracket open, square bracket close, specified with the attribute in HTML DOM elements, right, to select based on the what attribute name and or attribute value. So in this video session we are going to discuss the attribute as well as their attribute, what is it, value, both example. So what is the basic syntax for jQuery attribute selector? So I am highlighting here two syntax. One is going to select with attribute name, one is going to select with the word attribute as well as their value. So first syntax, if you look at that, dollar of in double quotes or single quote you can mention, in a square bracket attribute. So this is going to find out only those elements which uses this specified attribute. That element is what? No matter. Any element which uses this attribute, that element is going to be selected. Second syntax is for what? Dollar of in double quotes in a square bracket attribute, other attribute must uses this specified value. Means first one is only for the looking that attribute. That attribute using what value does not matter. Attribute match, that element is selected. In second syntax, that attribute with their value, what is specified here, if it is matched in HTML document, then that element is going to be selected. So based on these two syntax, we will see different examples and will implement practically in our HTML document in any project, I will see the output is coming as per our expectation or not. So look at this here example, dollar of in a square bracket attribute name, what is the title? It's very simple and easy to understand. It selects all the elements that have title attribute. So in HTML document, whichever elements are present, if those element uses an attribute called title, that element is selected. Second one, not select all the elements that have title attribute, select a specific element which uses attribute title. Like here what I have mentioned, div title, dollar of div in a square bracket title means it selects all div elements that have title attribute. Here any element which have title attribute, here div element which have title attribute, that is the difference. Now the third one, if you look at that, dollar of title equals to Naresh IT means it selects all elements that have a title attribute with the value exactly match Naresh IT, means the attribute also going to search at the attribute what value using, that value also going to match. If it is both matched, then those elements will be selected. But in this example I have not mentioned which element, means any element whichever have title attribute with value Naresh IT, that element is selected. Next example in which I have mentioned here, what is that, dollar of div of title equals to Naresh IT. So I hope you are able to understand. It selects all the elements, which elements, div elements, all the div elements that have title attribute with what value, Naresh IT. So in this previous example only title equals to Naresh IT, element is not mentioned. It means any elements on HTML document whichever have title equals to Naresh IT, that selected. But in the last example I have mentioned the word div of title equals to Naresh IT means it selects all the div elements which have a title attribute with the value called Naresh IT. So that elements will be selected. Now this example will elaborate in more details and we will see the practically while implementing with jQuery code, and we will see the output what exactly is going to come. So I have the one example here, selects all elements with the title attribute and sets on those elements 5 pixel solid and red border. Means what? We need to perform an action. What action? Setting 5 pixel solid red border to those elements which have attribute what, title. So here code what required, right, dollar of title dot this 5 pixel solid red border can be specified, can be set with the jQuery method called CSS, because the border thickness, border style, border color, these all comes under what, applying CSS. And to apply CSS we have a method in jQuery library, the name called CSS. CSS of border 5 pixel solid red. So let me implement this one on HTML document and to show you whether result is going to come or not according to this jQuery attribute selector. So what I am going to do, that Visual Studio. So this is the my Visual Studio in which I have created one website project, and in the website project I have an HTML document, HTML page.html. In this we are going to implement, where already I have added the reference of jQuery script file. I have added another script tag section. In this I have written the what, $document.ready of the function, and this is going to be closed. For what purpose? To make sure document is ready, then only something to be happen on the HTML document. So in this HTML document I am going to have some content. Suppose I have one div content. This div content I am going to use with the some attribute called id div1, and here I am going to use title equals to Naresh IT, right, and going to close. in this div I am going to write some content. This is first div element. So this div will be appear with this content, and whenever mouse over on this content, it will display the tooltip Naresh IT, because title attribute is used to specify the tooltip text to the element, and the text will be always appear whenever a user mouse pointer over this the content. Right, now I have one more div element that have an ID equals to div2, and I am not using the any title attribute for this div, and I am going to close, writing the content. This is second div element, and I have one paragraph ID equals to p1. Here I am using the title equals to Naresh IT, and here I have content. This is first paragraph element. Any content you can write, that's it. So my HTML document is available with the how many element in the body section? 3 elements. One is a div with ID div1 title Naresh IT. One is a div ID div2 with the some content, no title is available. Paragraph ID p1, title is available what? Naresh IT, and this is the close. So there are some element in HTML document which uses an attribute, one attribute what? ID, one attribute what? Title. Here this is the only ID attribute, this is the ID attribute as well as what is the title. This title, how it is going to be appear, let me show you. Save this page, run into the browser. ID everybody knows it is for the what? So here you observe, this is first div, mouse over on the first div element. Whenever you mouse over on the first div element, so you can look at that one content is coming, the name is what? Naresh IT, description. So this title always will appear in the form of tooltip text whenever mouse pointer over to the any HTML element, it is specified with an attribute called title. So what my requirement is, I want to perform some operation onto those element which uses an attribute called title. What operation I want to perform? According to my example, I just want to perform a CSS with the 5 pixel border thickness, solid, and what is the red color. So what should I do? I just come to this place and I write here what? As soon as document ready, that time only I need. You may require no, whenever user button click, whenever user mouse pointer over to some, whenever user nothing but type something text box. So it may be different event can be required to perform this operation. But right now my requirement is what? As soon as document gets ready, select those element which uses an attribute title, and on that set CSS with the border 5 pixel solid red. So that's what the code must be written whenever document gets what is it? Ready. So in this what I am going to write, dollar of what is it? In a square bracket what is it? Title close dot what is it? CSS of CSS property what is it? Border, and their value, what is their value? 5 pixel thickness, solid style, and color what is it? Red. So what you are doing that? You are selecting the element. Which element? All element. By using what? Attribute. Which attribute? Title. And this attribute must be mentioned into what is that? Square bracket open, square bracket closed. And here not specified which element, it means all elements. So before I run this page, let me show you. This is the one element, yes. Then this element using an attribute title, yes. So one element is selected. This is the second element, it has any title attribute? No. So this element is not going to select. Please remember. Do we have one third element? Yes. This element using the attribute title? Yes. So according to what HTML document we have in our example, right, there are two elements having the attribute what is a title, and that attribute is going to selected, and on that going to apply the what? Action CSS. So now save this page and run this page. As soon as page loaded into the browser window, you can just observe that only for those two elements applying the border 5 pixel solid and the red color, and the middle element is also one element of the HTML document, but this element do not have the any attribute with what name, title. That's why that element is not selected. It means you are performing a operation to the selected elements, which elements have the attribute title attribute, but here not mentioned, right, which element, all elements, whichever element, either that is a div element, either that is a paragraph element, either that is what any other text box element or any image element. If those elements have attribute title, that element is getting selected, and on that action getting performed, the name is CSS with the border 5 pixel solid and red color. But if you come to the next example over here, in the next example, if you look at that here, what, select all div elements with title attribute and set 5, means same CSS operation, same border to be set to all elements which have title attribute, but that all elements must be of type of what is a div element. Here not mention which elements, here mention what is it, only that element should be div element. So let me apply that. So here what I am coming, that here mention dollar of what is a div, dollar of div means all elements matched by div, and those div element must have attribute called what is a title. On that same CSS must be applied. So according to this HTML document, how many elements are there matched by div? That is a 1, that is another one, 2. This is a paragraph. So first div using the title, yes. Second div using any title attribute, no. So element matched type of what, div, but this div element do not have a attribute called title. So this element is not going to select it, only this element is going to select it. This is the paragraph not matched with the div. So only one element gets selected based upon the current HTML document what we have, and on that going to apply the CSS border 5 pixel solid red. So now save it and run this page in a browser, right. So whenever this is going to load the in browser, right, you can see that border red color applied to only the first div element. Now if you come down to here and mention this div also, right, with some title equals to some value I am giving Naresh IT, save it. Now just come to the this browser window and refresh the page. Now you will get the what, two elements will be having the border, right. You can see that this is the first div element in the border, and this is second div element into the border. So this is the meaning of that, what, selecting the element of a specific type with attribute called title. Not only you can select any element with the title attribute, you can select element with any attribute. Similar to this, right, we are going to have select all the elements with the attribute value what is that, Naresh IT. Now we have to select all elements which uses attribute title, along with the title attribute must have value matched with what, Naresh IT, means that element using the title attribute and the attribute must have value with Naresh IT, then only that element must be selected, otherwise do not select that. So in that case what I am going to do that here, div of title, I want not div, all elements, right. So I just remove title equals to what is it, Naresh IT must be in a single quote, because already here double quotes we have been used, so inside I must use single quote. If outer level you are using single quotes open and close, so inner level must be what is it, double quotes. Please remember this syntax. So here I am writing what is it, Naresh IT, means what, all elements that have an attribute title and that must having the value with what, Naresh IT. So before I run this page, if you look at that, this div, yes, right, having the title Naresh IT, yes, this div also having title Naresh IT, this paragraph also having title Naresh IT, these all three elements having the what, title Naresh IT. So these all three elements are going to selected, right, on which is going to apply what is it, CSS border 5 pixel solid red. Here not mention which element, is mention all elements. If not specify any element div or p, right, with selector, it means by default it assume for all elements, but those elements should have an attribute title with what value, Naresh IT. I save that. It means all three elements must get the border. So, you can observe first two div element getting border and after one paragraph also getting the what border. This is what selected. Here if I just remove the title for the second div, I just remove, right. So, all element is what, this element also there, these all elements are there, even the body also one element is there, head also one element is there, but which element in my HTML document using the title, this is using and this one using. So, these two elements are going to apply with what, CSS border 5 pixel solid red. Now, just come down here and refresh the page. Once refresh the page, you can see that second div element is not selected, even though this also comes under all elements, but this element not using the attribute called title. Select all elements, which element here mentioned, div elements with a title attribute and value must be what, Naresh IT, and set what, 5 pixel border thickness solid red border. So, now in this example what we are going to do is, here I mention dollar of div with a title attribute equals to what is it, Naresh IT. So, this time is going to select all div elements only with attribute title and value must have Naresh IT. So, if you check in your HTML document, this is the div element, yes, selected, but this has title attribute, yes, and value must be Naresh IT, yes, matching. So, one element is selected. Now, in HTML document finding one more element div, yes, fine. This has any title attribute? No. So, this is not going to select according to this jQuery attribute selector. This is the div element? No, it is a paragraph element. So, how many element as per current HTML document selected? Only one, and on the only one is going to apply what, CSS border with the 5 pixel solid red color. So, now save it and run this page in a browser, right. You can see the only first div element is getting with what, border red color, because this element is only div and this div element using the attribute title with what, Naresh IT. One more div element is present in our HTML document, but unfortunately that element is not selected because that element does not have attribute called title. That is what, that element is not selecting. For testing purpose, if I change here what is it, P, means what, it selects all the elements which matched by what, P, means selecting all P element, that must have attribute title with what value, Naresh IT. So, first one is a P, no, second one is paragraph, no, third one is a paragraph, yes, it has attribute title, of course, with what value, Naresh IT. So, according to my HTML document, this element is matched based upon this jQuery selector. So, how many element matched? 1, but which element 1 right now? Paragraph, not the first one div. So, now if you run this page, is going to apply the CSS border to the which element? Third element, last element. This is the first paragraph element. So, save it and run in the browser. You can see this is the first paragraph element selected. So, I hope you are able to understand how we are using this different example in order to work with the jQuery attribute selector and that attribute selector with a specified attribute as well as their value. Now, next one, we are going to select all div element with both, means more than one attribute. One is what, title attribute, one is what, style attribute, and set 5 pixel solid blue border. So, till now in earlier example we were selecting the element, all element or div element or paragraph element with only one attribute, and in my example I am using the attribute title, but I am not going to restrict here to select only with the title. You can select element with any other attribute also as per your business development need. For example, I am using one attribute which is the most familiar attribute among all the developer who are working with HTML pages. The name is title attribute, but I said you can use ID attribute. You can use src attribute, you can use type attribute, depends on different types of HTML element. But one attribute which is the common among all the HTML DOM element, the name called title, that I am using here. So here required not only select element with the only title, even the title as well as style both should be there, then that element must be selected. So what you do that? So here what I am going to write, that I am changing, I want all elements that have attribute title as well as all elements that have what, style attribute also. So I have the div with the title, and I am this one I am going to make what, one attribute style, background color, you observe, background color yellow I am going to set, background color I am going to set, what is it, yellow. Why? Because this div I want to, by default I want to set with the what, some background color yellow color, colon what is it, yellow, right. Means what, I have one element div that using the attribute title and the attribute what, style. Any style you can set here, I am setting just for testing for background color yellow. And I am going to have one paragraph, this also I am going to use with some style attribute for testing purpose, background color colon what is it, yellow. So there are two elements are there as per now HTML document, which uses the attribute title also and what, style also. What value uses title, what value uses style, right now for this example no matter. So it is going to look for all the HTML elements that have a title attributes as well as style attribute, both must be there. This div which has ID 2, I just mentioned also title, observe very carefully, sorry, title, this title name I am giving Naresh IT. But this div element doesn't have the another attribute called what, style. And here what I said, that it select all elements that have title as well as what is that, style both. So now if you save it, right, and run this page in HTML document, so which elements are going to select? Two elements. One is the first div and one is the last paragraph, because only those elements have both attribute title also and style also. We have middle element, second div element is there with a title attribute but doesn't have style attribute. But my jQuery selector which is mentioned with the title again square bracket style, it means it looks for those elements which element uses both attribute, it is a mandatory. If both attributes are available into those elements, then only that element is going to be selected and then perform the what, action called CSS to apply the new border. That's what in both what coming the border. Of course I can give any color, in border here I am giving red, I can give blue color as per my example which I have shown you. So what color will come? Blue color will come. That's your choice, whatever you want to give the color you can specify that. So now the next example selects all div elements with the title attribute, right, and what is that, value Naresh IT, fine, and style attribute value what, background color yellow, and set this one. Before I move this example, in this example I have mentioned here what is it, div. So I have not shown you, let me show that. Here I am not using div, I am using title style, means all elements. That's what this div also getting selected and what is it, this paragraph also getting selected, because both using the word title and what, style. But if anybody say only I want div elements with the title and style, so mention about div title with style. So now come to this place and if you refresh, only first element will be having the border with the what is that, blue color. This element not having any border with what, blue color, because you have mentioned is clearly that only div I want. So div is coming. If you change here nothing but what is it, paragraph, right. So only all the elements matched by paragraph. In my HTML document I have only one paragraph and that paragraph must have what attribute, title as well as what is it, style. So only this element is going to select nothing but last element. So save it and come to here and just refresh that, you can see that last element is having the border, not having the first element border. So how it is getting filtered out by using the attribute selector, that is important point to understand here. Now as per this one, next one what I am having that value must have and style also should have. So value Naresh IT and style what, background color, and the element must be what, div, right. So for this example what we do that, here I mention what is a div, right, must use title with specified value in single quote. What value? Naresh IT, written, case sensitive, remember that. And style attribute also should be there with value. What value? Background color yellow, right. So is looking for all the div element in your HTML document which have title attribute with the specified value what, Naresh IT, as well as also should have style attribute with what value, background color yellow. So before I run this page, you must check it here. Div is there, yes. This has title, yes. Value what, Naresh IT, matching, yes, matching. Style attribute is present, yes, present. Background color yellow is there, yes, it is there. So this element is selected. Now this is another element, div, yes. Have title attribute, yes, matching. Have value Naresh IT, yes, matching. But doesn't have what attribute? Style attribute. But here what I am asking that it must have also style attribute. It means this element is not going to select. Third one, it is a paragraph, yes. But here what I am asking that only I want div element, not going to select. It means only first element is going to match with this specified selector, and on that going to apply what, CSS. Let me save and run this page in a browser. You can look at that. First div element is matched. On that there is a one border blue color with a 5 pixel, it is specify, right, is coming that. This is also div element. This also has title but doesn't have what attribute, style attribute. And my jQuery selector, it is mentioned that title attribute as well as style attribute both must be exist, then only that element to be selected in order to perform any such action, otherwise no. Now in this example, last example, select all div elements with either title or style, both are there, then also fine. Among the both anyone is there, then also element to be selected. Means not a mandatory, the element must have title as well as style both. Even the title is present, style present both, then also selected, or only title present, then also to be selected, or only style present, then also to be selected. Then what to do that? Between the two attribute we have to provide comma separator. If you want whatever attribute I am specifying, among that any one attribute is matched, that element to be selected. So between those attribute what I have mentioned in jQuery selector, I need to specify what, comma separator. Remain everything is the same. So what I do that, I just come to the what here. This time not going to match with the value, means only attribute, so I remove the value. If you want to match with the value, you can define that, I remove. This is looking for all div element with the title as well as what, style both. I say no, all div element with either title or style, or both is present, then also no problem. So I just mention what here, comma. So look at that before I run this page. What element here? Define div. So do we have div element? Yes. What looking for? Title attribute. Yes, it is present. Or style attribute. Here style also present. It is means according this is the going to select. Now second div. Yes, div. Title what? Naresh IT. Yes, matched. But this div doesn't have what attribute? Style attribute, and here it is there, but it is there with the what, comma separator. It means what? It is optional. If it is present, then fine. Means among these two attribute, if any one attribute also matched, that element will be selected. If both attributes are not matched, then that element is not going to select. So that is an important point to understand. So now save it and we'll just run this page in a browser. So according to our discussion, how many elements get selected? 2 elements. These 2 div elements selected. On those 2 div, border should be applied with a 5 pixels solid, which color? Blue color. Last paragraph should not be selected because it is a what kind of element? P, and here what mentioned? Div. Div with the what is the title, comma what is the style. We have discussed in earlier video session multiple selector. So before comma this is the 1, and after comma this is the what? 1 selector. Means all elements match with what? Div. With what attribute? Title. So this is the one div and this is the another div, right? Both div is having the title and what title, comma what is it, style. Before style attribute there is no element is mentioned. It means all elements matched with what, style attribute. So this element also matching with what attribute, style, fine. This element also matching with what attribute, style, no. This element is not having a style, this element having only a title. So this is already selected with the what is that, first selector, and after comma what given, second selector. In this is not going to be select, but this element is not div, is what, paragraph, right? This has title, yes. So according to this first selector, this is not getting selected, but as I have mentioned the comma separator, so after comma what is the mentioned, style, and not mention here what is a div. It means what, this also will be selected because it has what attribute, style attribute. So that's what, this element plus all paragraph element which having the style attribute is getting applied with the what, CSS border. So if you run this page, you can see that you are getting what, all three element with the border. But here if you mention that comma what is it, p style, right, div of title comma p of style, means all div element with the title attribute as well as all the p element with what, style attribute. If this is not a match, then this will be selected. If this is not a match, maybe this match, this will selected. If both selector is not match, no element selected. So now you observe that I have mentioned p style, right? So p have a style, yes. Div with the title, this div, both are having title. But here also if it is mentioned what, div style. So observe, for this div having the title, yes. Style also available, yes. This div having the title, yes. Style available, no. But because of the second selected style is there, so this also will be selected. But this paragraph having the title also, style also, but it is a what type, paragraph, then not matching here. Here what mentioned, div mentioned, here what mentioned, div mentioned. In that case, if you run this page in a browser, right, you can see that only first two divs are getting selected according to jQuery selector, and on that HTML CSS action is getting applied. This paragraph have a title, have a style, but not selected because it is a paragraph, and in jQuery selector example mention what, only div. So this is all about what is it, our today video session, jQuery attribute selector, right? Try to practice more and more and see the output is coming or not. Thanks for watching. Keep watching the jQuery video session. Thank you very much.